I've been playing this game a long time, and today I'm going to give legitimate advice at League Start on how to make money in Path of Exile 1. And the thing about these tips, these strategies, none of them require farming maps for currency, mostly because your character is just not strong enough when you're broke and you don't have any gear yet at League Start. You're not strong enough for juiced maps yet. And so none of these strats require scarabs, delirium, or question mark the new all flames, which we'll see how those go. None of these strats require essences, farming Legion, farming Abyss, farming Syndicate, breach farming. You might like these things, and that's perfectly fine to run, but I find for profit making they're a little bit slow, and so none of these strats require those, and none of them require complex metacrafting for making excellent crafts. That's something to come later, something you just cannot afford to do at League Start. So the question is, do you mix and match these strats, or do you do all of them? That's entirely up to you. The three general motifs are: you can take an active strategy, which requires fighting. You can take an active strategy, which requires crafting. Or you can take more of a passive strategy, which requires gambling. Now, the gambling strat actually will make you money. I have friends that do this almost exclusively, and I do a lot of this as well. And this is how I make a lot of my money. In fact, I would say the majority of my money. However, there's a big risk involved, as it is a gamble. But this is, I would say, the best odds gamble advice that I can provide. So let's start with the active strats, which require fighting. Now, it'll just depend on your playstyle and what you like to do. However, it is very profitable to run heists or to run delve, because fossils sell for a lot of money. It's very profitable to run expeditions and logbooks if possible, to collect black scythes and exotic coinage so that you can reroll Tujin and collect divines that way, or other high-valued currency items. It's very profitable to farm life force, because life force sells very well, so if you can just farm a ton of life force, you will be making bank. It's very profitable nowadays to get Maven splinters. Get Maven invitations and sell the invitations. It used to be you could do this also with Searing Shark or the Eater of World invitations. However, they've gone way down in value because that's no longer how you run the Uber versions. So they still sell, but not for nearly as much. So I used to run and get Uber Searing Shark invitations. However, nowadays, much more profitable to just add Maven to all your maps as you go through your atlas. And finally, the last active strat for fighting: collect and sell Shaper Fragments. If you're strong enough to run the Shaper Fragments, Minotaur, Hydra, and all them, Chimera, if you are strong enough to run those, you will always make money. In fact, I have a video on my channel which shows me getting a ton of money from nothing. It's one of the best ways to guarantee yourself to make money, so long as you're able to actually complete the maps and not run out of portals. What if you prefer to craft? This is something I throw in between and that I do myself. Active strategies for crafting when you're poor. You want to, of course, as I said, avoid metacrafting benches, because they cost 2 divine each. Prefixes cannot be changed and so on. So what you want to craft are things that everybody wears, every class wears, meaning belts and rings in particular. And you want to use fossils or essences, but generally speaking, fossils. And fossil crafting on a Stygian Vice is one of the best ways. You want to look for res and you want to look for life, and if you can get both of those, it's going to sell for something, and pretty cheap to make. Now, the new memory strand items are probably the way to actually go with this: memory strand Stygian Vices or memory strand rings. However, I don't know how expensive the bases will be. That'll depend on the new economy. Number 2, when you're trying to craft, is also running expeditions and logbooks if possible, to get Order of Chalice and scrap metal so that you can craft with ROG. Very profitable. It's not something I personally do much of. I want to share this here. This is something which Alcohol and Chalice have talked about, and I took it from them. If you plug in this acronym here into the search bar, it'll highlight on ROG good bases, which have level of all blank skill gems, spell suppression, chaos res, spine bows, claws, especially Imperial claws, of course. Mind throwing speed on jewels apparently is valuable, and I checked and it is. And additional arrows on bows and quivers. So it'll highlight those bases to start with, and then you can ROG craft and try to fine-tune it and remove lowest tiers. It's actually a very good way if you just are someone that likes to run expeditions. This is a great way to make money. And now, passive strategies. If you're a gambler, you can't only do these. You have to do a little bit of something to get funds, but this is something, I hate to share it in some ways because it works so well, but I'm literally telling the truth. This is a stepwise process, and step one is to buy stack decks. Now, I don't like stack deck flipping generally. I've said this before, but I do it. Do it at first, because when you get a divine to fall, you buy a divine worth of stack decks, and you might get nothing, but it's a very good chance you'll get something of value, and it could be really good, like the doctor or the apothecary, but it also might be just something good enough to do div card duplication, div card flipping. You can check POE.ninja to see the value of div cards in the economy, but even doing this on lower, a couple divine worth div cards, you can duplicate your divine quite quickly. Your initial slam has a 2/3 chance to not destroy the div card, which is why this works. I do this every league. Even though as you proceed, if you commit to it, it's a 50-50 chance. The first slam, if you do it once, is actually, there's a safety net allowing you, so it's not just a 50-50 chance on the first slam. It's not just betting on black. Buying unidentified Watcher's Eyes, big gamble. If you have enough money, I like to do it because you can make massive profits. Maybe 1 in 3 chance you get profit. You tend to break even about 1/3 of the time too, and then 1/3 of the time you just lose. This is just anecdotal. Using div cards. Step 4, using div cards as intended. The Cheater, Desecrated Virtue, Broken Promises, Home, and Gem Cutter's Mercy. Home and Gem Cutter's Mercy, if you don't get Enhance, you make money. It could be Empower or Enlighten, especially Enlighten. The Cheater and Desecrated Virtue are a pure gamble. And what you can actually do, you can go ahead and Beastcraft after, if you want to try to re-roll it, by the way. I just thought of that now off script. But they're just a pure gamble because some of these have high value, these level 6 gems. And Broken Promises, I don't typically make money with it, but you can really hit something huge. You can get like frenzy charges on a ring. If you get frenzy charges on the implicit of a synthesized base, you are like set for a month financially. So some of these synthesized implicits are worth a fortune. So, if you have the money, you can throw it at this. This is actually a very low odds gamble, but it's a fun gamble, I think. Now, I have to talk about the Adorned because it's a significantly better gamble than Sublime Vision. Because Sublime Visions are horribly expensive, and you can make a fortune, but more than likely you're going to lose all your money. With the Adorned, you take a fragment of Beauty, Ambition, Cooperation, and Curiosity. You mix them together, you get a corrupted, unique jewel. Between 0 and 100% increase effect of magic jewels that are equipped. Now, if you get 90 plus, you have made a fortune. If you get 80 plus, you've made a lot. So it's a gamble, but it's a pretty good odd gamble, so long as you don't hit like 0 to 50. I have a friend who, it's Viper, I'll just say it, he makes a lot of money from these. But, I wouldn't throw all your money at this right away. You want to have a little bit of safety net before you try the Adorned, which is why it's number 5 in the priority list. And then number 6, which is in a way even more of a gamble, but I've done it and made a fortune, is you take IC Brothers, you just buy one, and you duplicate it. And it's a 66% chance. You duplicate it once, and now you have a full Fracturing Orb. Now what do you slam it on? A Spine Bow of a high eye level, like 83, which you alteration spam manually to get +2 additional arrows, and you have a 25% chance. And if you hit the +2 arrows on the Spine Bow, you have made like 100 divine just as a base. Now, it'll depend. It won't be that much at League Start, but it'll be a lot of divine. So that's lowest priority. The priority of the gambles is important. Buy stack decks, number 1 priority. Div card flip, number 2. Unidentified Watcher's Eyes, along with using the div cards I mentioned, and then only later the Adorned and the Fracturing Slam. These are all tried and true methods that I've literally used and plan to use, and that's legitimate advice here.